Get ready for success. Leadership Strategies for Women is a show dedicated to providing practical and valuable strategies for emerging women leaders of today. It's your time to get inspired, motivated, and challenged to achieve your vision for success. And now, here's leadership speaker and coach, Ellie Nieves.
This is the Leadership Strategies for Women podcast, and I'm your host, Ellie Nieves. I'm the founder and president of Leadership Strategies for Women, where I develop seminars and webinars to help high-achieving women show up, speak up, and step up in their careers. To learn more, please visit my website at leadershipstrategiesforwomen.com, or you can follow the Leadership Strategies for Women page on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Here to talk to us today about her book, #Morning Haiku, is Carin Weisman Crook. Carin is an experienced communications professional with more than 25 years of experience leading clients and teams in engaging their stakeholders. She currently serves as the Chief Communications and Engagement Officer for a leading professional services organization and is the author of the book that I just mentioned, #Morning Haiku. Carin, welcome to the Leadership Strategies for Women podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
So glad that you're here, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you. So tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us something we don't already know from your professional bio.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York, and lived there in the same house my whole life until I went to college. And then I went to college in upstate New York. And then, of course, right after I graduate, my parents moved to a different place. But I did spend all these years in one place. And I think that set me on a path of not staying in one place for too long, because from there, I started my career working as an editor for a financial consulting firm. I had the most amazing mentor supervisor who taught me so many things, tricks that I even still use today and pass forward. And after about a year there wasn't too much growth for an editor there. So I moved on to work for a consulting firm and was there for about 10 years. I was a communication principal in their communication business, and I lived all over the country. So I started in Connecticut, moved to Roosevelt Island in New York City. Fast fact, that's a tiny little island that is off the east coast of New York City. I always called it the oasis from the city. And then I moved all the way across the country to Portland, Oregon. I call it my quarter century crisis. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do and thought maybe I'd step away from the corporate world. But when I talked to my boss, she said, "We have an office out there. We can make this work." And remember, this is before the days today. I didn't even have a BlackBerry at that point. So we did make it work. And from there, I met my husband, who was from the Midwest. So we moved to St. Paul so he could go back to nursing school. And then we moved to Minneapolis. And when I was 6 months pregnant with my first child, my company said, "Hey, do you want to move back to New York?" And we at first thought, no way, that would be crazy, but we did it. And I was 3 weeks before delivering my daughter, Eliza, we moved to Westchester. And then from there, we moved back to Connecticut, and we've been here for almost 14 years.
That's fabulous. So you have had quite a career. And can you just share with our listeners what some of the challenges are that you faced as you were striving to attain your personal career goals?
Sure. I will tell you that I am filled with ideas. My daughter and I recently watched a TED Talk on being a multi-potentialite, and I've decided that I absolutely am that I have so many different passions and interests. And so one challenge absolutely is that I get bored very easily. So making sure that in my career that I'm doing and making a difference and helping others, but at the same time, always eager to take on more. And so that can be a challenge and an opportunity at the same time. One thing that really sticks out for me is that sometimes I can be perceived as coming across as young because I have a very exuberant personality. And in fact, when I didn't know what to study when I went to college, because remember, I'm that multi-potentialite, everybody said, hey, Carin, you're so bubbly and outgoing. You should have your own talk show. And this was back in the days when it was just Oprah, Sally Jesse Raphael, and Donahue. And I thought, okay, I'll do that. But as I studied communication, I thought there were so many other avenues where I could explore. But anyway, I remember once, somewhat early in my career, getting feedback that I smile too much, And when my husband and I were talking later, I told him that. And he said, wow, you're getting this negative feedback for the thing that I love most about you. And so it's really been a journey to figure out how to take that passion and exuberance and excitement and also make sure that I come across as authentically me, but also being aware and mindful of the work environment. But ultimately, I decided that being my authentic self is most important, and that kindness and passion and exuberance, it's contagious.
That's beautiful. And I think that's the balance that we all face as women is how do we come across as our authentic selves while still really focusing on those leadership strategies that are going to help us to get ahead in our career. So it sounds like you have found the right balance so that you are authentically you and have still been able to be successful and climb that ladder of success.
Absolutely. And also, we all have different definitions of success. I also have a son, and he has he's 14 and a half, almost 15, and he has very clear ideas on what he does and does not want to do after he graduates. And I think really, ultimately, this world today, we're challenging that definition of success that I grew up with and maybe you grew up with, and becoming more inclusive and allowing that to be a bit different.
That is so true. I know that my own personal definition of success has changed over the years. And if you were to ask me today, my definition of success really does encompass more balance, not just professional success, but mental health, family, relationships, friends, having self-care time. So there are the definition has definitely changed and has really, I think, transformed even how we go about doing the work that we do in today's workplace.
Absolutely. I mean, the conversation when I started my career, health and work completely separate. Today, now that's integrated, not only physical health, but emotional, mental well-being. At the company that I currently work at, we have a director of well-being, and I have a background. I'm a certified yoga teacher. I have my certificate in plant-based nutrition. I'm working on my health coach certification. Remember, I told you I'm that multi-potentialite. And I've been able to bring that as well into what I do for my professional career. So it's quite amazing in how supportive companies are today, because they know we need our people to be well and to be supported so that they can show up as their true authentic selves, and then help our clients, help each other, and be the best.
Absolutely. And that helps us to transition to your book, #Morning Haiku. It's called Simple Practice to Inspire Your Everyday. Tell us what inspired you to write this book.
That is an excellent question. I was trying to think back, what exactly was it? So back when the pandemic started in March 2 years ago, I started writing a haiku. I think it may have actually been April 6th or something like that. My husband and I were talking, and he actually and a friend used to sponsor a scholarship. He was a philosophy major for his undergrad at his university. For a philosophy student, all they had to do was write a haiku, and they picked based on those haikus. And I think we were talking about that, and I wrote a haiku, and then another, and then another. I'll read you the very first one. Yay, today is here. So much to be discovered. Let's start with waffles. So that was my first haiku, and I posted it on Facebook and had so many comments and replies and likes that something inspired me, I think, again, during the early days of the pandemic when everyone was scared and disconnected and just looking for some meaning and connection. I made it a goal to write one haiku for everybody in my Facebook friend list, which are a lot of people. And every single day I did that. I tagged somebody and I posted it. And over time, it morphed from the one-on-ones to being more musings on everyday life. And I've written a haiku every single day and posted it, hashtag morning haiku, since then. In fact, last week, my son was looking through my book and said, "How many haikus do you have, Mom?" And I reminded him when I started. He could not believe it. So I always thought that I would, over time, I thought it would be great to keep these, and I'd love to make a book. And so that's what I did, and it published in the last 2 weeks.
That's amazing. And it's really inspirational because it did come from your desire to help everyone else get through a very difficult time in our society. And I'm sure that those individuals who were tagged every morning with a unique haiku that you dedicated to them probably felt really special.
Yes, and what's so nice, as we know, we have all these connections on Facebook, but we may not interact with them very often or, once in a while. So it was also a way to reconnect with so many friends in that way as well. And then I think the other thing that really got to me was I posted a haiku one day, and all of a sudden I had all these emails and text messages and phone calls asking if I was okay. And as we know, on social media, posts get many views, but people may not like them, they may not comment, but many more eyes are on them than we know. And I was okay, and nothing was wrong. I love how we do fill in that white space with our own experiences, but it showed me the power of this and how I had this amazing opportunity to be able to bring this in a bigger way.
So what is your favorite haiku in the book?
Oh my gosh, that is really like asking me to choose my favorite child. But my answer to that is, well, my favorite daughter is Eliza and my favorite son is Maxwell. So I think if I were to pick one, it would be the very last one, because this really sums up many things. I've written many books in my head. They've not made them to paper. So this is the first one that did. And I'll read it to you. It feels like cheating. Write a little every day. Poof, you have a book. And it really did feel that way. I think that the reason so many of my books did not end up on paper is because in my head, writing a book is this thing where you have to go away and lock yourself in a room and just do it and sweat and don't eat and don't take time to, for self-care and all of these things. And then, wow, you emerge with a book. But actually, of course, it's just like anything else, a little bit every day, whether it's learning a new instrument or exercising or learning how to cook or a new hobby. You do a little bit every day, and over time it manifests. And so my husband does remind me when I think, wow, this wasn't that hard. He says, Carin, don't underestimate yourself or don't undervalue yourself because you did this. And I'm like, yes, I did. So that would be my greatest advice for people, is just a little bit every day. When I teach meditation, I say the same thing. Don't even start with 5 minutes. Start with 30 seconds. Start with 5 seconds, whatever feels right to you. And so I have now also started taking my own advice. In addition to my haikus, I've been writing 1 page a day, just 1 page a day of free form. And who knows what will happen from that.
That is amazing, practical advice. And you just reminded me of one of my law school professors. She said, whenever you're overwhelmed, just chip away every day. And that always stayed with me because it reminded me that whenever there is a huge task before me, that's exactly what I need to do, is just chip away every day. So you've made this idea, this concept of writing a book, very simple to approach. Yet you're right, so many of us, when we think about writing a book, and so many of us feel like we have a book written inside already, we just have to get it out, but we are overwhelmed by just the thought of it. So thank you for just giving us this very practical way of thinking about writing a book. Basically, yes. What we all think of birthing a baby, right? Because that's what a book really is. It's like birthing a baby, but you've made it really practical and approachable.
Yes, and I love that. Chip away, step by step by step. One of my other favorite sayings is that an optimist knows that taking a step back after taking a step forward is not a setback. It's not the end of the world. It's doing the cha-cha.
Mm. I love that.
Good to remember.
Yeah.
Our brains make things much more complicated and bigger than they need to be. We all do that.
We do, absolutely. So tell us what's next for you personally, Carin.
Well, as I mentioned, I am working on my health coach certification through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Funny story, I started this 25 years ago, and for various reasons it wasn't right, and I've come full circle. So that's pretty exciting for me. I just came off of time with colleagues that, after 2 years, all being together for almost a week was so inspiring. And I think that what I'll continue to focus on really is trying to help others be their best selves. And again, that doesn't mean it needs to be this big splashy thing in neon lights, but just finding what's true to them, their purpose. And even if that sounds scary, we don't need to use that word, just finding what resonates and helping them do that.
Well, Carin, thank you so much. You've been very inspiring. Tell us how our listeners can access your book.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's available in both paperback and as an ebook. You can go to Amazon. I like to go to smile.amazon.com so that we always support charities, and just search #morning haiku, all one word. A simple practice to inspire your everyday, and who knows, maybe it will inspire you also to start writing your own. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Morn Haiku. That's MORNHAIKU on Instagram. And I post a new haiku every day. So I'd love to see you there.
Carin, thank you so much. You've been very inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. You are inspiring too.
Oh, thank you. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, God bless.